Yes, I should introduce you officially. Brian Phelps, Titus Welliver.
Good to meet you.
Titus, great to meet you two, man. Now, you two met in juvie, right?
Yes.
We met in the showers.
Yes.
Okay, did you?
And then I let him have the bottom bunk.
Oh, you're very kind,
you know.
yes.
Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck. Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck.
Great to see you all again.
Holy cannoli, is it great to see you again.
Episode 2. We made it.
At least we think.
We've made it.
Unless they pulled the plug already.
Yeah.
Brian, let me ask you something. I was thinking about this on the way over here today. So, thinking about childhood heroes, but like fictional heroes. Okay, so we're talking about like TV, movie, comic book kinds of heroes.
Sure.
Like, did you have any? Maybe you still do. I know I do. But did you have any like childhood fictional heroes?
Comic book wise, I wasn't really a huge fan then
Okay.
of superheroes.
Yeah.
Superman, Spider-Man. I like the funny stuff comic book wise.
yeah.
I like, and you're going to make fun of me, but Beetle Bailey.
Oh, yeah.
Loved Beetle Bailey.
There's no dated reference there.
I love the Archies.
The Archies.
And this is the big one. I was a big fan of, I'll just say it. I'm not shamed.
Okay.
Richie Rich.
Richie Rich.
Yeah.
He was such a square, though.
I know, but I loved it. They had money, and he was cool.
That's
He was
true.
a nice
We didn't.
guy.
Yeah.
But as far as movie fictional heroes, that's an easy one. As I've told you many times, my father was and still is my hero, and my father's hero was John Wayne.
Oh,
And
the
so
Duke.
I'm a fan of John Wayne since I was like 5.
The Duke. I just recently showed The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, which is my favorite Western of
Wonderful.
all time. But Wayne is in that, and he's using the word dude for the first time on screen.
Yep.
And I said to my youngest son, Cosmo, who uses dude like his entire Gen Z does, I was like, see, this is where it started.
What about you? Fictional heroes growing up.
Childhood fictional heroes. Willy Wonka. Willy Wonka. A big one. Doc Savage. Doc Savage.
He's wearing a Doc Savage
The Man
t-shirt.
of Bronze. Yes, Doc Savage. G.I. Joe. You must have liked G.I. Joe.
Oh, I have. That's the one action figure I had.
I mean, G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
That was great. I've never been, unless they want to hire me, then I'm a huge fan of Marvel. I've never been. I was more of a DC guy. So The Flash was a big one for me. I remember this cute neighborhood girl that I had a crush on, Julie Portuise. Hi, Julie.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Julie.
Oh, she was hot.
We used to have races down the street in my neighborhood, and I would try to like channel the Flash.
Okay.
But Julie would pretty much beat me every single time. Anyway,
but for the Man of Bronze, you didn't have the ripped shirt and with it open, at the chest.
no, I was the original 75 pounds wet,
Okay.
weakling. But Han Solo, another big one.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Huge Han Solo fan. And of course, Indiana Jones.
Okay.
So those are
right.
like my fictional heroes that, and by the way, to this day I still adore.
Now, what about action figures? Did you grow up with action figures?
Yes.
Yeah?
I mean, that was kind of part and parcel of being in our generation. But yes, first of all, books also. Doc Savage. All the Doc Savage. There's the Man of Bronze in his, in his
shirt.
In his shirtless status. Look, I have a Wonka figure. And Mike TV figures.
Wow.
And I still have a Violet Beauregard.
Wow.
Right?
You got to know. He is a major Willy Wonka fan since he was a kid.
Yeah.
In fact, one of these episodes, we're going to show that video you made when you were in Germany.
Yes, I was in Munich and I went to the location of Wonka's factory. Yes.
Now, what about action figures?
Yeah, G.I. Joe definitely was probably one. Stretch Armstrong. Do you consider that an action figure?
Not really.
No?
That was one of those toys that you play with for about 5 minutes and go, that's all you can do with this.
Well, until you start putting firecrackers under his armpits
There you go.
and that stuff. Or just with Stretch Monster, I literally just poked a hole in it because I wanted to see if it was green goo inside, just like
What
the
is
green.
in there?
I don't know.
Is it spongy or is it a gooey? Is it a liquid?
It's like a petroleum jelly-ish kind of gooey stuff.
Good, very safe. Did you lick it? Did you swallow it? Yeah.
At that age, I probably used it for something else. But anyway, G.I. Joe, the tall G.I. Joes that had the actual like fuzzy hair and then the dog tag pull.
Yeah.
I remember it had, I don't remember exactly what he said, but I remember I would repeatedly pull the dog tag and then throw it up in the air as high as I could. And then you'd hear it like talking all the way down until it hit. Until one time it just went,
wow.
And that was the end of it.
I was kind of rough on, I had 4, maybe 5 G.I. Joes as I grew up.
Yeah,
I kept getting them. It was the only action figure I had.
Yeah.
But one of them, probably the last one I had, I wasn't very nice to it, as you weren't throwing yours up in the air.
Yes.
Because I'm a curious kid. I always was curious, and I played with it for 2 days. Then I went out to the garage and tried to find out how it worked, and I took him apart. Now, and it was pretty fascinating. You know this probably. In the Talking G.I. Joes, they had like little acetate records in the chest.
Yeah, it was a little plastic,
little black
doohickey.
G.I. Joe got me into incredible amount of trouble.
How so?
Well, we had one bathroom in our house.
Okay.
All right. So I remember Dad had his side of the cabinet under the sink, and Mom had on the other side. She had her space for her stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious kid. I opened the door and I'm looking in my mom's cabinet, and inside there was this huge pink box.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Huge pink, huge pink box. I didn't know what was in there. I didn't know what they were. It probably said Kotex or something on there. I don't know, but huge pink box. I'm curious. I open up the box. I look in. Don't know what those are.
No.
Feminine napkins. Didn't know what they're used for. Didn't know what they were called that.
Barbecue, right?
You're right.
It's a napkin.
So, well, my father actually wore one when we painted the house one hot summer in Illinois. He wore one over with a band, a rubber band around his head because he sweat so much.
And he slept outside that night too.
Mom didn't appreciate that either.
Yeah.
I pulled one out and I just thought, no, I'm not tooting my own horn or anything, but for an 8-9-year-old kid, this was pretty brilliant. If you think about it, they kind of look like sandbags. What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do with sandbags? You make a bunker for your G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe, 100%.
So Mom wasn't home, so I pulled the pink box out, not thinking I'm really doing anything wrong.
Sure.
I grab my G.I. Joe and I take it outside, not just on the front porch, but on the sidewalk in front of the house.
Oh, good.
Cars driving by.
Yeah, you made a full public display.
Neighbors walking by. I am making this incredibly strategic, beautiful, big round bunker for my G.I. Joe. Mom pulls in.
Yeah.
While I'm playing. I'm waving, Mom, I can't wait till my mom sees this. You're going to think I'm brilliant. Now, her windows were up in the car. But when she pulls in the driveway, I hear this. She gets out, still screaming. Now the whole neighborhood's hearing it.
Yeah.
And she grabs, I still remember in my mind, her 2 hands coming down, grabbing the bunker with the G.I. Joe as well, throws him in the box, and runs in the house.
Yeah.
Big trouble.
Wow, that's not pretty. She and every other woman in the neighborhood hated you from that day forward.
Yeah.
Well, listen.
Think of her position. I'm 8 years old.
Yeah.
She can't tell me what they're for.
Of course not.
But why is she angry?
Yes,
I don't understand.
Wow.
But yeah.
Have you talked to a therapist about this?
No, but she has many. Yeah, that's when she started.
Okay, so yes, we live and learn with these things, and then like most of those action figures, I'm guessing, with the exception of these Wonka's things, like I don't have many left. Do you have any of these things left?
I have a bunch. But not that I went and bought. I've had them given to me.
Oh, right.
For instance, we did an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh, that's right.
And one of the things you get is this big, huge box of action figures and the First Contact stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That one I have maybe 35 different characters and aliens from the movie, which I really love. This movie, by the way, is a good one. First Contact. So I have
those are probably worth something. I mean, like as if I know.
Yeah, I got to ask someone.
Well, the thing is, it's like we didn't hold on to any of these. I didn't hold on to most of them. I don't. I had all of the original Hasbro Star Wars figures, all that, but like I don't know. I just don't remember what happened to them.
Did you have the big Millennium Falcon with all the characters inside?
No, dude. I
didn't either.
My parents wouldn't spring for that. But I think someone in the neighborhood did. So then I had them, I adored them, but to be clear, I played with them, right? Like I didn't keep them in the package. That was not a thing we did.
Yeah, those are the 4 words that would make me a terrible collector of action figures. Still in the box.
Yeah.
It took the kid right out of me.
Yeah, right? So, but as a result, then at some point, whether it's garage sales or the garbage, or maybe your mom spitefully threw all yours away at some point, they all disappear, and then they're gone.
Yeah,
but not from memory.
Right, except for the ones that are given to me, and those are still in the box because I'm supposed to keep them there. But I do have these all the Spinal Tap characters.
Oh,
like
wow!
There's Derek.
Spinal Tap.
And now these I love. And that's David St. Hubbard.
Yes. Oh, Nigel. Wow.
But
that's impressive.
Now that we're talking about this, I got to tell you, man, I'm a little bummed.
Why are you bummed?
I mean, we don't really know what we're talking about since we don't have our toys, our G.I. Joes anymore.
Yeah.
But I'd love to. Why didn't we think of this? I'd love to talk to a guy, okay, that knows practically everything there is to know about action figures, because it's pretty fun subject to talk about.
Sure.
And would make it better if this guy was like an amazing actor that's played heroes in movies and on television. That'd be good. And the icing on the cake would be if he had a really badass first name. But why didn't we, Grant? Why didn't we set this?
Here's the thing.
Why didn't we think of that?
I have an idea.
There's got to be somebody out there.
Hang on.
You're the detail guy.
I know. And this is a tall order to fill. It's like you've given me the Santa list, but I think I might be able to help.
Really?
Yeah.
With today?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, let's get started.
Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck.
Okay, look, guys. You know our guest today from a bajillion things. I'm going to laundry list some of these things because it's impressive. Brooklyn South, NYPD Blue, Deadwood. One of my favorite series of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Law and Order SVU, NCIS, Lost. Sons of Anarchy, The Good Wife, Gone Baby Gone, The Town, Argo, Age of Extinction, the Transformers movie, Man on a Ledge.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of action figures, The Mandalorian, right?
Oh yeah, right.
And now,
yeah.
He's not only written, directed, executive produced, but he stars. This is off of your laundry list or hopeful list of like someone who actually plays these heroes.
Yeah.
He stars in both the original award-winning Amazon series BOSCH, based on the immortal character Harry Bosch from Michael Connelly, but also in its successful spin-off BOSCH Legacy, which is now headed to its 3rd season, by the way. And he's one of the key creative forces behind a newly announced 2nd spin-off titled TBD. Brian, you asked for it.
Yes.
You're now going to get it.
Yes.
Ladies and gentleturds, give it up for Titus Welliver.
Let's hear it, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome,
Titus.
Guys. I don't know where to start. What can I address first? Richie Rich and Harvey Comics? Or do we segue into... I have to say, I'm going to say the maxi pad sandbags.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Because I think, and give yourself more credit, because I think that was a dual purpose thing. You had the sandbags, which offered protection, but also if G.I. Joe got hit, he could just bleed into the maxi pad.
Wow. All right.
And
see.
Bob's your uncle.
Wow. That's Bob's your uncle, man. That's brilliant.
Wow, you've just been fully validated by less than Titus Welliver.
Titus Welliver. He liked my idea.
He really did.
Now, the laundry list that Trey just gave. Now, those are, of course, that's the stuff that everybody knows and loves about Titus here. But there is something a lot of you might not have known. And here we go with that. Titus is a passionate and lifelong fan and collector of action figures.
Is this true?
This is 100% true.
Nice.
Wow.
No shame here. going all the way back.
Nor should there ever. So when you say all the way back, how far back does this go? How did you first get started in with this passion?
I'm about 40 years older than both of you guys. So my thing goes all the way back to the 60s with the 12-inch G.I. Joes. When they were military figures. You had the Army and the Air Force and the Navy and the Marines. Then you had all the cool outfits. And then as with the Vietnam War going on, military toys started to kind of fall out of favor. So you weren't seeing all the great toy guns that Mattel and Marx made. There was the Johnny West, Best of the West stuff, which became very popular. And so Hasbro kind of made a command decision to say, well, what do we do to continue the G.I. Joe brand? And they just switched them out and made them the adventure team. So rather than fighting in wars, they had missions, and those were like the secret of the mummy's tomb, and it came with a mummy, and then there was the 8 ropes of danger playset, which came with an octopus, and it was actually really, really smart and creative, and also they had lifelike hair and beards, so they were cooler.
Now, did you buy these with your own money, your paper route money, or whatever that's a big investment for a little kid.
You go back and you look at, for instance, the old Sears catalogs from 68, and it's amazing. Like the Millennium Falcon, right, which was the coveted holy grail of Star Wars stuff. I think in the Sears catalog it was like $22.
Wow.
Wow. G.I. Joes in the box, the 12-inch ones were $5.99.
Was it the G.I. Joes that had the Kung Fu grip?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Wasn't there?
The original G.I. Joes had one hand that was like this.
For the gun.
And the other one that was like that. So they were really awkward, and they couldn't hold things. But in around 1968, the Ideal Toy Company had this brilliant thing, and it was a tie-in to a DC comic drawn by Gil Kane.
Okay.
The character was Captain Action. It's a short-lived series. I believe there's only 5 issues of it.
It was your nickname in high school,
That
too,
was
right?
my nickname in high school. That and Cake.
That was my nickname in college.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
Late bloomer. I like it.
Yeah, but it's very late. And what you could do with Captain Action was he had his whole suit, but they got the licensing from both DC and Marvel, and you could dress that character up as Batman and Superman and Spider-Man and Green Hornet and Nick Fury, anything you wanted. And he had a sidekick who was Action Boy, and you could dress him up as Robin and Aqualad. And he had really soft, articulated hands, so he could hold stuff.
I have a question. It's in 4 parts, Titus. So allow me to reel them off, and then you can answer them. Number 1, how many action figures do you have? And number 2, what's the most valuable action figure you have, monetarily speaking?
And then number 3, what's your address?
You just pimped
my
me.
insurance carrier.
I'm setting this up. It was going to be great.
All right. So, okay. All right. Wait, we want answers to all of these questions. So you get started early, young. And then, and using the paper route money or whatever, like, are you keeping them in the box? Are you playing with them? Are you?
I was a bit of an anal retentive kid. So I wasn't the kid that blew them up with firecrackers and things like that. I really looked after them. And they had a little wooden foot locker. So I had 3 or 4 of those things that were filled with the different uniforms and stuff, and the guns and the this and the that. So I took care of them. And then obviously as I got older, I wasn't interested in playing with them. So they got sort of boxed up and put away. And my father had moved to Maine at one point and had a house fire and lost everything.
Oh, no.
So not only, a massive collection of musical instruments, but, very high-end artwork, a Picasso, some de Koonings, but also all of my toys and all of my Aurora model kits that I had built. And it was very strange because there was a part of me that went, well, you know, the overreaching thing is that we've lost everything, and that's horrible.
Yeah.
And it didn't really kick in until later. And I realized in a very strange way that I had an attachment in some way. They were connected to a sense of nostalgia that was very, very personal to me.
Sure.
And they were all gone.
Mm-hmm.
And also with a massive comic book collection of both DC and Marvel. There were a couple of Richie Riches in there too, and some Archies. And I happened to be, this is around 1981. I was down in my neighborhood in the East Village, and there was a vintage shop called Love Saves the Day. It's in the film Desperately Seeking Susan.
Yeah, I remember this.
And I walk in there, remember in the 80s, the 50s and 60s varsity jackets became very popular.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I saw one in the window that was actually from a school that a friend of mine got. So I went in and I was checking that out. And as I'm looking at that, there was a glass display case that was filled with 12-inch G.I. Joes from the 60s. Some of them were kind of banged up, but a lot of them were in pretty good condition.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked to see one. The guy took it out, and I flipped over the price tag. And this is like 1980, 1981, and it was about $400.
Wow.
And I had no sense of, I wasn't a collector.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I still collected comics, but I was way too old to be collecting toys, and it just wasn't something that I thought about.
Mm-hmm.
But lo and behold, not far from that was the 1978 Kenner Alien. They made, can you imagine the Kenner guys go, you know what, this R-rated movie in which no children are going to see, let's make a 27-inch figure of this. It's going to sell like gangbusters. Nobody really bought it. And here it was, and it was $75, and that was more money than I had in the world. But I remember the guy really sensed that I was pulled to this.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll make a deal with you. I'll take it down off the shelf. You pay me what you can, but I need like a weekly. So I would go in there some days and give him $2, and he would scratch it down. And finally I paid him the $75, and I had this pristine Kenner Alien. You squeeze on the back of the head and the jaws came out.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where it all kind of started. And then it became, I was a late bloomer in that because I couldn't afford any of this stuff.
Sure.
So now you're in the 80s, and I had younger brothers. So they were playing with all the Star Wars and the new iteration of G.I. Joe in the 80s, which then became a 3 3/4 figure to kind of, mix it up with the Star Wars toys that were, insanely popular. I mean, apparently Lucas has made more money from the toys than the films themselves.
Yeah.
Look, I've seen, Boba Fett prototypes, the little figures, going for over $100,000.
Yeah.
So it's a slippery slope.
Two things strike me, Titus, as to hear you talk about it. I mean, one is, I think it's kind of a critical component of collecting that you can't necessarily afford everything, especially when you're starting out, because so much of the thrill is attached to the chase of just like looking for things and, going to every secondhand store and, places like that in the village. That's part of it. But also it strikes me, especially having heard, the tragedy that your family went through of losing all of that stuff. Like this seemed like an opportunity for you to sort of try and reconnect with some of that past, right?
Yeah, you have to be Sigmund Freud or Jung to figure that one out. It was very, very obvious connective tissue. When you have something, when you sustain that kind of loss, that trauma, for lack of a better word, there's definitely a nagging thing in there. And particularly when you then go and you see it in this physical form, and you go, oh wow, I had that Hot Wheel car.
Yeah.
If you were a kid And kids of the 60s really played with toys.
Yes.
There were no video games.
Yeah.
Everything was tactile.
Yeah.
You know, we were playing Army and Cowboys and Indians and
Star Trek.
you know,
Using your
Star
wallet.
Trek.
Using your wallet as a communicator because it flipped open. Yeah.
We all did that.
Yeah.
We all did that.
You mentioned that Boba Fett being over $100,000. I did a little research in preparation for your visit, Titus, and I found out, and it was just a Googled list, so maybe you won't agree, but for $200,000, that which was the most expensive. I asked for the top 10. $200,000 will get you. The guy won't sell it, by the way, but the prototype G.I. Joe, prototype.
Yeah.
Wow.
$200,000.
That's incredible.
Oh yeah, and you know what? There are probably people out there that would say it was worth more, and they, that whole figure was created from the artist models, those wooden things that you would see in the stores. That's how they created the whole armature and everything. They just ripped that off, and they kind of kit bashed it. They used putty and they made the face. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen photographs of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's not selling it.
No.
I don't know anybody who's gonna pull the bread. Although, there's a Star Wars guy who's the definitive Star Wars collector. He has, insane things. He's got a lot of props from the films that are screen used.
Right.
I get it. I completely get it. I've kind of backed off from it because I honestly don't have enough space in my
That
home.
becomes an issue for every collector.
Just quickly, what is your most valued action figure, both monetarily and emotionally?
Well, I don't know. Jesus, that's really hard. Sentimental value. I have a pretty pristine in the box Space 1999 Eagle One that Mattel made. That's huge.
Oh, I love that show. Yeah.
Wow. That thing was beautiful.
In great shape. And I love that. And I've got one of the Green Beret G.I. Joe I have from 1967.
Wow.
Who's pristine. That was their attempt to see, well, can we go with this?
Yeah, right.
It was just too close to home with the war going on. I mean, people were not running out, and so I have that. And then I would say of the newer things, the Star Wars stuff, the 12-inch 1/6, I have a lot of things related to film. So, for instance, I have these 3 figures from the Mad Max film. So from Road Warrior, I have the Mel Gibson with the dog.
Nice.
And Humongous and Wes. You remember the crazy guy with the red tomahawk?
Yeah.
There's a lot of companies now. It was very limited when I first started out. Sideshow, who made your Spinal Tap figures. And I'm kind of an ambassador for that brand. They changed the whole collecting scene. They started out as a very small company in Ventura, and they are Sideshow and Hot Toys, of which they have a partnership with, really make the best stuff. Everything from Terminators to the Star Wars stuff, which is incredible. It's just you could lose your mind. I have an Indiana Jones made by a company called Toys McCoy from around 2005. And that's kind of held value like a stock certificate. But with that whole, keep it in the box, I sort of did the thing like, well, I'll get one to put away and then one to open up, and kind of, I had a room in my former house, which was sort of the cinema room, and I had a guy come in and install shelves, and it literally was, it was a nerd's paradise.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say nerd because that's such a
Own it proudly, wear it proudly. Yeah,
pejorative. I go, well, if that's what a nerd is, then I am.
Sign me up.
I'm king nerd.
Although I'm thinking, knowing that you've raised kids, like while you're collecting all this stuff, I'm glad you pointed out that you'd keep one in the box and keep one to play with, because I can imagine this would be like a dream for your kids and a potential nightmare for you.
Yeah. So I was very, when my kids were coming up, I was good about that. I would, I was also of the mind that for my children, these were things to be played with, and they needed to be buried in the sandbox and blown up. And, but they have, and what's interesting about that is that my sons are 25 and 22.
Mm-hmm.
And they're diehard fans. They're film nuts. They love comics. They, Star Wars obsessed. So it was a steady diet of Star Wars. I think it was about a year or two ago. We were hanging out back in Connecticut at our farmhouse, and they went up into the barn because they're older. Their stuff all got boxed up properly and put up into the barn. Well, they went up into the barn one Christmas, and they brought all that shit down into their room, and they became little boys again. They had the stuff spread out all over. There was a battlefield in their room, and no shame in their game. They could care less. Of course, my daughter's going like, "Oh my God, you guys are so old. What are you doing playing with toys? You're such idiots." Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
They didn't care. They asked. This is probably about 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
I went, "What do you guys want for like sort of a combo big gift at Christmas?" And they said in unison, "The Lego Death Star."
Huge.
Yeah, which you have to take a second mortgage out.
Yeah,
to purchase
exactly.
that. And then it takes about 14 to 15 years to build the bloody thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Well, this. Look, this is amazing, and thank you for sharing all of that with us. Because, sign us up for the same nerd support group. But here's the thing, Brian. For all of Titus's obvious love and passion for collecting action figures.
And it's great hearing him talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not to mention his obvious talent for actually playing fictional heroes like Harry Bosch on TV.
Amazing.
I think for our purposes, selfishly, what makes him a particularly good human in our eyes is also, Titus, your work with real life heroes. Namely, brave U.S. military personnel who have been somehow wounded in service and are now supported by this extraordinary group known as PVA, the Paralyzed Veterans of America.
What got you involved in this?
I've got a lot of warriors in my background and my family. And I always had a tremendous respect, considered a career in the military when I was kind of acting out, and thought, this could be something that I could be good at.
I agree, by the way. Look at him.
He could kick both of our asses.
Yeah. But I for whatever reason, I was, particularly growing up in the Vietnam era.
Yeah.
I firsthand, we all did. We saw people whose big brothers came back and weren't quite the same, or, and exposed to that at a very, very early age. But I think more than anything, as it started to become more and more abundantly clear to me that the care or the aftercare of our men and women in the military has really been shabby, to say
very much
the least.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these private organizations have gone out. You've got your Six, Wounded Warrior Project, Paralyzed Victims. These organizations make an enormous difference. And it's shameful that the government is not more invested in that, considering that, we send young men and women to protect our liberties. And yet when they are broken, they're kind of discarded or cared for in the most minimal way.
Right.
I mean, we all live in Los Angeles, so we've all gone by the Veterans Center there over, near San Vicente. And we actually shot there because the character of Harry BOSCH, he's a veteran of 2 wars.
That's right.
And it's a beautiful facility, but on the outskirts of that is a tent city, and these are veterans.
Yes,
these are not drug addicts, etc. These are people who served their country, and they're actually, the temerity of that they're on the other side of the fence, in which inside there is care. I met a guy who was one of the last of the Navajo code talkers.
Oh, wow.
And my experience in interacting with people in the military, because I've trained with military guys for different parts in films and became very close to them as well. And they all do a lot of work, in organizations dealing with the suicide rates are through the roof.
Yes.
And PTSD. And then there's research that goes on, but this is all privately funded.
Right.
So to me, it's incumbent upon someone who has some sort of public visibility to use that to benefit people who have given everything.
Yeah.
And it's always sort of felt like a moral obligation.
Yeah. So I wonder if you can talk to us a little bit more specifically about PVA, Paralyzed Veterans of America, and kind of what they are devoted to.
Well, first of all, it's all privately funded. So Paralyzed Veterans, it's an organization which they cover and provide care for veterans. They provide care for the family. They provide housing. They provide medical care. It's an all-encompassing organization in relation to that. And if you watch the testimonials when you go on the website of veterans and their families, you'd have a cold black heart to not be moved and to cry. And there's an incredible humility that comes through, because these are people who serve their country and yet don't possess the ability to ask for help.
Yeah.
We ask for their help. Go and protect us and
true. Yeah.
Keep us safe and everything.
Yeah.
And then, but ask for nothing in return. So the idea that an organization was created to deal specifically with that, to take the burden. I mean, everybody knows these medical costs are insane. You have someone who is severely disabled. How, and you've got a husband or a wife who's disabled, and yet you've got a bunch of children that need to be raised. You have school fees. You have, transportation. Can't afford a car. Can't get a loan to get a mortgage or any. PVA deals directly with all of these issues, which are ongoing. Right. And I can't imagine anything more human than that, because we deal with this not only with veterans. We see human beings, and it's profoundly unfortunate, but it goes all the way back to the first cave paintings, right?
Yeah.
The people are discarded.
Yeah.
And I think it's become more and more prevalent, and I don't want to get on a soapbox and sound like a fool, but I just think that it's profoundly unfortunate and heartbreaking. But I think that there are a lot of organizations, and there are a lot of people that have put their best foot forward to try to affect some sort of change, and to be a very small part of that. Helps me get up in the morning. Yeah. And as it would, I think, anyone. Without question. And that's why we should probably direct anybody who's watching or listening and who wants to learn more about Paralyzed Veterans of America, PVA, PVA.org, right? Is the website they should go and visit to figure out how they can get involved the way Titus has, which we thank you for. Thank you guys for that, and please do. I know we always see these commercials where they say $1 a day makes a difference and stuff. Well, you know what? The truth of the matter is, it does make a difference. People don't see that, but it does make a difference. Every penny goes to providing assistance and care.
Thank you for being involved in that, and letting everyone else know that might not have known that is. And I've seen the commercials, and you're just amazing in them. So, all right, let's recap. Brilliant actor.
Yes, this is true.
Collects action figures.
Very cool.
Devotes his time to worthy causes like Paralyzed Vets of America. Before we go, I'd really like, Trey told me a story of how you guys met. And I don't know if you remember this.
Of course I do.
Okay, well, because it's going to lead to something, and you probably know what it's going to lead to, Titus, but tell the quick story.
Well, as I remember it, it was a bit of a wrap party of sorts for a live theatrical production, and drinks were flowing, and people were feeling fairly celebratory, as one does in a rap scenario. And somehow, because we were seated in close proximity to each other, somehow Titus and I stumbled on our mutual ability to do one particular celebrity impersonation.
And who was that celebrity, Trey?
You're much better. Yours is much better.
It's the only one I can do, by the way. Take this message to my bro. So
wow.
we landed on this ability to do Michael McDonald.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But then, and at that point, I will confess, although I was very familiar with Titus and his work, I was not familiar yet with some of the extraordinary celebrity impersonations that he really can deliver.
And that's what I wanted to bring up. Look, being a guy that did voices for 25 years, this guy is the best I've ever heard. And Kevin Pollak, all these great actors also who are really good impressionists. But this, honestly, Titus, they're hilarious. They're spot on, and all the interviews I've seen you were on Kevin Pollak's show and all these other shows. They always ask you to do that, and I just want you to know you're probably sick of it. You're probably stressed out. So we're not going to ask you to do that. Okay, we are.
You're totally.
I thought we'd do a real quick one here, Titus.
Look, I'm a shameless whore for attention, so
Yes, well, good. Come to the right place. So we're gonna just a real quick role play. Thought this might be funny. That you're what?
There's a role play. I like
role play.
Okay.
Yes. Did you bring the maxi pads?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
So a real quick role play, and that is you are Christopher Walken, but you didn't really want to be bothered. You're walking down Melrose. You've got a floppy hat on, the sunglasses. Trey and I are tourists, and we're lost, and we need to ask you for directions. And
I like this. And scene
action.
How are we gonna get to the La Brea tar pits, Brian?
That guy over there. Let's ask him.
Oh yeah.
Sir, hello. Do you mind if we ask you a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Could you help us get to the La Brea tar pits?
La Brea tar pits?
Yeah.
It's over by the art museum. You can't miss it. It's sort of like a giant anthill off Wilshire Boulevard. There's a museum there. It's filled with dire wolf skulls. It's the George C. Page Museum. And while you're at it, take a little walk over. You can watch them digging trilobites out of the tar.
Wow, there he is.
Trilobites out of the tar. That pretty much describes this entire show. Digging trilobites out of the tar.
Brilliant, man. Brilliant.
Titus Welliver, thank you so much, my friend, for joining us on Be Good Humans. I don't think there's any question in our minds that you absolutely qualify as a good human yourself. So thank you for being with us today, my friend.
Appreciate
Guys, thank you for having me. I feel like this could also be done, in a private place. I'll have water. You guys can have all the adult beverages that you want. But this has This has been a great pleasure, and it's just really cool to circle back to where just a little added note. Many, many years ago, it was a birthday of mine, and my ex-wife wanted to give me an alarm clock. And so within that alarm clock, Mr. Callaway had put a picture of Michael McDonald, and you could record a message on the alarm clock. And of course, the message was, "Happy birthday to my brother."
Yes.
Yeah, come on.
I would hit that and laugh, and it kept, despite the fact that Trey and I haven't seen each. I mean, it's been years and years and years.
Yeah.
That holds a very
That's great.
beautiful place in my heart, and nobody can do McDonald like Trey, who's also a great singer. I mean, when you do your multi-screen, you might want to see a talking doctor about that. I believe the clinical term is schizophrenia, but you do it very, very well. And it's a pleasure, guys. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Titus.
I'll happily come back anytime.
Thank you.
And chew the fat.
Thank you.
We'll take advantage of that, man.
You're
Have
a good
great
human
day.
indeed. Thank you. We love and adore you. See you later.
Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck.
That was awesome.
He's incredible.
I'd love to hang with him at a party, as you did.
I would just love to go, browse through his collection.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I just love when you see somebody
Passionate.
When you can get at the heart of somebody's passion like that.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Okay, so we're running out of time. So before we forget, good humans, please do us a favor. Follow us on all of the socials. We're talking about Facebook and Instagram, Threads, TikTok, even X or whatever the hell they call it, all at Be Good Humans Podcast. Also, speaking of, visit our website, would you please, BeGoodHumansPodcast.com, where you can not only, and this is very important,
This is cool.
not only tell us about good humans you think we should meet, right? Because
be a guest on our show.
Right, because it's cool to have the celebrities every once in a while, but really this is about people from all different walks of life.
Every episode, we're going to be interviewing someone different.
That is correct. So,
but that's not all. Also, there's going to be a place where you can actually just give us your daily tip, or if you have a basic, I do this every day to make people feel better, or to try to make a little teeny thing just be better than it is.
Yeah, pointers on how to be good humans. We would also actively solicit that. But that's not all. Also, if you feel like being like Titus, like Brian, if you feel like being an especially good human, you should also join us on our Patreon, where you can subscribe to get all kinds of fun stuff. We're talking about bonus material that didn't make it into the show. I'm sure there'll be a lot here. Member exclusive videos and posts. We're even going to do, and we haven't really talked this through, but we're going to do some occasional live Q&As where you could actually watch Brian Phelps play the drums naked. Or not. Trust me, you'd rather see him than me. I
don't want that competition. I don't want to be involved in that at all right now.
Maybe I've done a terrible job of introducing the Patreon. The bottom line is you're gonna get some super cool exclusive access to special stuff that you can't get for free on the podcast or through our social media accounts. So that's it. What I really want to do now is play with your Spinal Tap figures.
Right.
So do you want to? We got to wrap things up. Do you want to say?
I've never put this in words before, but I kind of want to play with your Wonka.
That's fine. We'll do that.
That's a sentence I've never said before. Actually.
Maybe we'll shoot a little extra video, and that'll be on the Patreon. At any rate, do you want to say it, or should I say it?
I think we should do it this time together. Why not?
Okay.
All
3,
right.
2, 1.
I need a hot dog.
3, 2, 1. Be good humans.
Bye. Thanks, you guys.
Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck. Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck.